Bhavin Shah, the founder and CIO of Samiksha Capital, joins in now. Bhavin, good to have you on NDTV Profit. And what do you make of the drag on the IT that we are really seeing today?
Yeah, I think it's a tough place, the IT services, the large cap, and I think the obviously Accenture guidance, spooked the investors again. There was a bit of a recovery in the sector, but I don't think there was, it had any strong foundation. The concerns around the revenue growth or lack thereof, will persist, and I think we are looking at, at least, a couple of years of no revenue growth, maybe even a decline is possible. And at least in the dollar terms, currency may help a bit in the rupee terms, but yeah. So that's where what we are looking at, and I think I keep kind of going back to a long-term trend of IT services. The growth rates for the large IT services companies are already fallen to low to mid single digit, I would say, before COVID. There was a bump up in during COVID, but I think then you go back to the trend rate. So even without the this whole AI led impact, we were anyway going for slower and slower growth rates, and now we have a disruption that is bringing it down. So I think that's where it is. The when there is no growth in the sector, the stock prices will react sharply to any such news on revenue guidance.
That's right, Bhavin. So quite a bearish kind of tinge is there to your outlook. At these current levels also, you don't think they are worth of really picking up for a short-term play of maybe 1 or 2 years?
No, you have good, one of the things I look at is free cash flow yield, and it is pretty good. It is probably, approaching that COVID level, the late March 20, somewhere thereabouts. But then what about growth? So, if there is no growth, what returns you're going to make, it's going to be very low returns, if any. And so that's why, yeah, it's a base to avoid the space.
Right. Another important, story for the day, Bhavin, and of course, not much stock movement so far, but of course, Reliance AGM, and that has an impact on the overall telecom sector for sure. How do you see the Jio's IPO really coming in and the impact on Bharti Airtel as well as Vodafone Idea and how the sector is really shaping up?
Don't look at that sector that closely, to be honest. But I think, the value, the consolidation in the sector has been a very, a big positive. You've seen, steady increases in,
Sure.
ARPUs and so on. So yeah.
Right. No, so let's talk about the overall market momentum today, Bhavin. Today, market pressure, what do you make of it? And what should be the trend and the strategy for the near term in this uncertain environment? Even though there is a peace deal, there is no formal signing today. There is one sign that is done. There will be more talks on technicalities. What does one make of this and play the markets and strategize in the near term?
So I go back to, I would say, mid-March. That's when we actually told our investors it's a good time to put money into equities. Because the and with every week that passes and this drama continues, you get good news, then you get not so good news. But what I think is very clear to me is that neither side wants to continue this war. They don't have the, there is constraint with variety of reasons. The war is not going to start again. So while you have a delay in signing a peace deal, maybe market is reacting to that. I don't know. Maybe reacting to the fact that we had a bit of a rally recently. But I think in general, I would say that the war is largely behind us, and I think we can look at other factors that should affect the earnings. I think we had very strong earnings in the December and March quarter. I think underlying demand trends were pretty positive. And with the crude coming off so sharply, which I think is a very important factor for India, and the way the government has handled and cushioned the impact on the overall economy of that, I think we are in a good shape. Obviously, we have issue of weak monsoon, but that is one factor at play as well.
Yes.
But on the whole, I think I would say we are looking at a pretty positive direction in the economy.
All right. So overall looking positive. War will not restart. So at least that certainty is there. And our own El Nino impact needs to be seen. Bhavin Shah, always a pleasure to get your expert opinion on the markets. Thank you so much for joining in.